Good evening, guys. You are in the ring with Christine, and we are right now live on Facebook and YouTube. And later on, we will have the podcast on the Podatron Network. I have my special guest again, Dr. Michelle Ingles and Paulina Indara from Perfecting Athletes. If you missed the
How are you guys?
show last week, oh my gosh, you missed a good one. You have to go back, you have to watch it, you have to like it and share it. We talked about dehydration. And today we're going to be talking about weight cutting, which I have a funny feeling that this is going to be a very good one as well as the first. So weight
They go
cutting,
they go hand in hand.
absolutely. That's exactly what my thoughts are. And weight cutting, is there a proper and improper way to weight cut?
I think there are more improper ways of doing it than there are proper ways. I think that anything that keeps you hydrated and protects your body is the proper way, right? And anything that drastically dehydrates you or throws off your electrolytes, well, that's the improper way. And I think that there are a lot of myths that we spoke about, some of which we spoke about last week, that are floating around there, whether they are in boxing or MMA or wrestling, the big combat sports, weight driven sports, where you have to weigh in the morning of 24 hours before, etc., that can be dangerous, can affect your longevity in the sport. Just recently, there was an athlete that was unfortunately hospitalized because they were sparring dehydrated, something that never needed to happen. They were, I think, 2 weeks away from their fight. They had been wearing plastics. They were limiting their water to about a liter a day. It's just, I mean, you're
Tragic.
setting yourself up for trouble.
Yeah, and I think that we talked a little bit, we just touched on this last week, dehydration and weight cutting versus weight loss. And I think that that's where a lot of confusion comes in, where people think that they're putting on plastics and cutting back their water and they're losing weight. But what they're actually losing is water. And so instead of weight loss, losing fat, they're losing water, which is water loss. And water is important. Muscles are 90% water. And if you start limiting the water that's in them, you're going to be affected pretty dramatically. And we have to remember that the heart is the most important muscle in the body. Your intestines are muscle. All of these things get affected. So when you're pulling out a lot of water or you're limiting how much you put back in, it's going to affect you. So there is a way to weight cut that is more safe, that protects all of your major organs, protects your brain, protects your performance, and keeps it to a short period of time. So touch on those things tonight.
So usually camps are what, 8 weeks? Usually on an average, would you say?
I Ideally anywhere between 6 and 12 weeks.
Six and
Sometimes they're shorter, sometimes they're longer, depending on if fight dates change. There are right now, because it's COVID era, a lot of fighters are trying to stay closer to their weight because there are a lot of last minute opportunities. A fighter
Absolutely.
drops out at the beginning of the week, they have to fill it because they can't risk, losing the card. You'll find a lot of athletes right now jumping in last minute, which if they have been training and staying on weight is a very positive experience for them. But we've also heard a lot more of the athletes trying to cut larger amounts of weight, which, especially right now, is can be more dangerous. I don't know if that's an accurate way to put it, Michelle. More dangerous now than before because COVID. People are working out less. They are probably drinking less. Was that accurate to say? Did we lose her?
Yeah, I mean, it is because
Okay.
obviously body weight that you can lose safely during a certain time period, that's not going to start really affecting all of your major organs. And when you exceed that, now you're really getting into trouble. And some of that depends on how lean you are, how much muscle mass you carry, how much fat percentage you carry. And some of that is just basic. I mean, we all know what it feels like to get the flu and you rapidly lose weight because of it and you feel weak. And then you are able to eat and drink and you put that weight back on. That's an extreme weight cutting. And we know that if you lose too much weight very quickly, you're not going to feel good at all. And it can affect your mental thinking. So if you're intentionally doing that through a weight cut, it's certainly going to have some ramifications. And the problem is right now, because of the COVID and the limited access to having people around you, people are cutting weight alone. And you don't have somebody there spotting you and watching you and seeing, do your eyes look a little glazy? Does your skin look a little clammy? Do you have a good reaction time? Do you look like you're still coherent and clear-headed, or do you look like you're having a problem? And sometimes it's hard as an individual to judge how you feel because you have a goal and you want to get it, and you're not thinking about what else is going on, and you need a spotter there to watch you and keep you, you know, in a safe zone. So I think that's one of the greatest problems that we've got going on right now. There should always be somebody with you.
Is there a healthy amount per day that you can lose, or is it any amount as long as you're hydrated? Is there too much or too little in a day?
Depends on how hydrated you are. For somebody who is completely and fully hydrated and who is used to doing this, it's not so much a pound weight as it is a percentage, but on average, I mean, an average percentage would be about 8 pounds in one day. You can lose that and not have any major side effects. For most people, it's a little different based on weight class, but that's about average. If you're not fully hydrated, however, it's less.
Right. So I'll give you an example. Somebody that's been very, very open about the changes that we have been able to help him with is Jemele Herring, WBO champ. Used to fight at 135, now fights at a lower weight. He's older. People do talk about this. He's fighting at a lower weight. Some of the issues that he was having is leading up to when he was fighting at 135 is that he was barely drinking, barely eating. So those 5 pounds that he had to cut in fight week or whatever it was were very difficult. Now he's eating, drinking, fully hydrated. He's knocking off his weight cut, which is an additional 5 pounds to what he was cutting. And it's much easier to the point where sometimes, because, you know, we aim for a specific weight by 9 a.m. and then weigh-ins are delayed, etc. He's getting on the scale at one point he was, you know, 128. And it is not because he intentionally went to get there. It is because his body was hydrated enough that he was still using the bathroom. He was still, you know, hanging out. He had energy. He wasn't having all of the issues that he was having at 135. They disappeared at 130 because he was eating and drinking. So to Michelle's point, it's not the amount, right? It's how hydrated you are. 5 pounds were terrible. More than that has been super easy, even at a lower weight, because he's eating and drinking. And a lot of our athletes, you know, Michaela, Shakur, they will all tell you the same thing, that before us, they were barely eating and drinking and really struggling. And now they're, you know, oh, I get to have breakfast in the morning. Oh, I can have, you know, this, you know, coffee, this tea, this watermelon juice. They're walking around super happy and they feel amazing. And that's the whole point, is let's give you what your body needs. And any athlete, it doesn't have to be ours. They could be working with somebody else, but hopefully they are getting what their body needs in order for their body to thrive. That's the whole point with high performance nutrition. The way we do it is, let's give you what your body needs and your body will respond. If you don't, your body has one job and it's to stay alive. And if it feels that it's in danger, it's going to stop everything.
It's a very
Most
good
definitely.
point.
You know, let's just say somebody who's not quite made it, you know, to high performance. They're an amateur boxer. They're just starting out. They have their first tournament coming up, and they can't afford a nutritionist, or they don't know anyone like y'all that they could ask questions to. What would be a couple of things that you would say to that athlete on how he could get started on weight cutting the right way?
There are a couple really easy things that you can think of. And the first thing that you need to remember is your ultimate goal is to go and actually perform in that fight. Weight cutting is just one of those jobs you have to do to get there. But remember, your goal is to have a killer performance, to go out there and be great. So we don't want to do anything during weight cutting that might affect that performance. You've been training for 8 weeks to perform well. So the easiest thing that I tell people when they're just starting out is go into a regular training session during your camp. Weigh yourself before you start training. Weigh yourself when you're done with the training session. Measure how much water or fluids you've had to drink during that training session, and you'll see how much you naturally lose just by doing an ordinary day. So if you know what you're keeping track of what you're eating and you're drinking, you know that, okay, you had an hour and a half session and you sweat out 8 pounds, but then you drank 2 pounds of water. So, you actually had maybe sweat out 10. You have an idea of how much weight loss you can accomplish in what period of time and in what way to do it. And if you start keeping track of those really simple things, there's no difference in a fight week versus a fight camp. Your body is going to perform. If you give it the same foods that it's used to performing, you give it the same workouts or methods of dehydration that you're used to doing, then it's just another day. It's just another day. And then you're not doing anything. You don't have to worry. You don't have to stress. You don't have to freak out. You know what your body's going to do.
Great habits to start. Yes, definitely. And I want to ask y'all, so fruits and vegetables, y'all talk about, them having hydrating properties because of all the water and the natural salt. So I have to ask, in its natural form or dehydrated form, is it the same as far as the salt content? Obviously not the water, but is it still okay to do the dried fruits and vegetables in replacement of fresh vegetables and fresh fruits?
Ideally, you want fresh vegetables and fruits because you want that water content. It's just another way of keeping your muscles really hydrated. And the more water you put in, the more water your body will release and let go of. So it's just literally training your body to get in the habit of it's going to get hydrated from fruits and vegetables and water, and it's going to let go through sweat or urination or defecation. And it gets into that routine. If you start pulling that water out and eating just the dried fruits and vegetables, they will give you some minerals, they'll give you some vitamins, they'll give you some fiber and some energy. But now you're not putting water in and pulling water out. And you want that dynamic of your muscles going, oh yeah, I can release this because I know I'm going to get hydrated again. It's sort of like if you have a sponge and you wring it out, you let all the water out, it's still moist and it can pull that water back in again and you can keep using it. If you let that sponge completely dry out, it's going to take a lot more effort to get it completely hydrated. Your muscles act the same way. If you let a little water out, put a little water in, it's a real easy, simple flow. If you let them get completely dehydrated, it's a lot harder. So stick with primarily the whole fresh stuff. Sprinkle in a little bit of dehydrated.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I was stumped the other day because one of our athletes asked me if it was okay to drink sparkling water in replacement of water. And it kind of stumped me for a second. And I just thought about what y'all would probably say. And I said, I think it's okay occasionally, but let's stick to water. Was I correct in telling this athlete that?
Completely correct. Everything in moderation when it comes to something like that. That's a treat. Especially the flavored ones, things like that. Use that as a treat. If you have a sweet tooth, that's a great way sometimes to satiate that.
Yeah, and the other thing is just you have to pay attention to your digestion because some people complain of gas or bloating or reflux, and yet they're drinking all of these carbonated beverages during the day, which is simply putting gas in there. So if you're prone to that, stick with plain water and have it as a treat. If it doesn't bother you at all, you can have it more frequently.
Okay. So I want to ask each of you, what are the top most important things that you want people out here for their athletes to know when it comes to weight cutting? And whoever wants to go first is fine.
Michelle did touch on it earlier, but the biggest thing that I want people to understand is that there's a difference between, again, weight cutting and weight loss. Weight loss is what you do during the duration of camp. Weight cutting is what you do just during that week. I try to tell our athletes, and Michelle does as well, that during camp, if there is fat to be lost, that's when we lose it. We make sure that the fat loss happens then. During fight week, it's no longer about fat loss; it's about water loss. So if you come into fight week at, God forbid, 15 pounds over your fighting weight, it's going to be struggle. I'm not happy about it. Nobody's happy about it. But sometimes it does happen. Something catastrophic happens. The fighter gets injured. They don't want to pull out, etc. However, the fighters that come in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds is easy to get off. Most fighters can lose that 8 pounds in 1 hour of working out without plastics, without massively dehydrating them, and they still feel fine. So for a very, very short amount of time, a fighter is on weight and then they are back to their normal weight. It is not that, they on Monday of fight week, they are their weight and they're dehydrated and they're not eating and they're not drinking. That's absolutely not what happens. That is not safe. It is important to realize that your body needs water and food every day to know that you want it to not suffer and stay alive, because it has, again, one job, and it's to stay alive. The dehydration is really the water pulling out of the muscle for a short period of time, and then we put it right back in.
And the other, I would say, most important thing to remember is when you're weight cutting, it's not about actually cutting out the water. It's about cutting it out for a short period of time, pulling it out of your muscle. But if you walk around all week long and you're not drinking any water, and then you still feel like you have to cut weight afterwards, your body's not going to let go, because your body is in survival mode. Your body wants to do everything it can to protect it. It's super smart. So if you give it the water that it needs, then you do whatever it is that you want to do for that short burst of time to sweat out the water. You will feel much better and have a much better performance. Keep drinking, keep eating, know how much water you can lose in a time period. You'll be able to do it much more safely with much less side effects.
Okay.
So think about it this way. I have heard a tremendous amount of athletes say, you know what, well, someone, my coach, whatever, this is the myth that I heard. What I've always done it this way. Every way they could say it, I'll drink a liter. A liter weighs 2 pounds, roughly. If they are working out and they are sweating out, say, 5 pounds, and they're only having a liter a day, now they're every day, now they're at a 3 pound deficit, So by the end of that week, it's 15 pounds.
Wow.
And your body just can't perform. So even amateurs, for example, that I know that a lot of amateur teams out there, especially elite amateurs, they have a formula, right? It's, X percent when you come in, and then it's X percent. That's amazing. However, X percent, say, let's call it 4%, 3%, whatever it is. And that's what you're allowed to be over, but you can only drink 1 liter of water a day. If they were actually hydrated, they would exceed that. So the reality is that, yes, okay, I understand 3% or whatever it happens to be, but you can't then say you can only have X. Right. Because if their body requires more, and it does, and now you're limiting it, now you're endangering them.
Makes sense.
You have to monitor how much they're drinking.
You said something earlier where, some things happen and maybe they're overweight, so do y'all believe, or do y'all know that emotional stress or something tragic that happens in your life can either help or detour your weight loss? Does your emotions have things to do with when it comes to weight loss?
100%. Being under stress, whether it is physical, emotional, environmental, whatever, stress will release cortisol in your body, which is a hormone that tells your body to either run away from the danger or, or fight it. But that cortisol can also create almost a weight gain, or retaining your water, retaining your fluids, because your body doesn't know when it's going to get fed or hydrated or safe again, so it wants to hold on to everything. And I have literally seen, I've been in the middle of weight cuts where everybody was happy, everybody was going smoothly, we were rocking this out, and suddenly someone walks in, or they get a phone call, or they read something, on their phone, and you see their whole body tighten up and get tense, and all of a sudden they stop sweating.
Yes.
They stop losing weight. And you can't do anything to get it back until you start getting them laughing and having fun and relaxed again. And once you relax and you release those endorphins, it can start again. But, the biggest difference between a camp and a fight week is that level of stress. And the closer you get to weigh-ins and the closer you get to the fight,
Sure,
the more stressed you are. So things might to slow down. So anything that you can do to keep yourself calm and relaxed, and, tell yourself, I lost 8 pounds, in an hour and a half in camp, I can do it. It's not going to be any different this week. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I've got 2 pounds. I only have 24 hours. Those little mind games really do change how quickly you cut the weight, which is also one of the reasons why you see people, who maybe struggled to make weight, or they make weight and suddenly they run to the bathroom and they just lost 3 pounds because their body relaxed. Yeah, emotions play a big part. Find something that makes you happy. Find something that makes you focused. Find a way to keep centered during it, and you'll have a much easier time. And that goes for the coaches and the people around them too.
Yeah. When you're in a bubble, when you're in the bubble.
And we're all in bubbles right now.
Yes.
Yes. Put on some inspiring music or quotes or podcasts or something. And
yes. It really
remember
does
why
help.
You're out there and have some fun with it.
Absolutely.
And honestly, just remember you're doing this job because it's something that you love. Whether you are an AMI or a pro, it is something you love. And if you have to do weight cutting, which is something you don't love, to get to the part that you love, that's just work. That's part of any job. It's part of any job. Just sit there and say, I am so grateful that I can cut weight so that I can do something that I'm so passionate about, and I have this opportunity. The people that have that attitude have the easiest time in the world.
Definitely. I see that. So we had some comments. Great advice, ladies. I'm taking notes. I personally had one more question, and then I was going to read some questions that we had gotten before the show. And that was, are there some foods that can boost your metabolism that are known for that?
As far as boosting, a little bit. Some of the foods that increase what we call diaphoresis, or sweating, letting your body sweat out, that can increase your metabolism. So we think of peppers and onions and chilies and the hot sauces, sambal. All of those can kind of like speed up your metabolism a little bit.
Okay.
Cayenne pepper, sriracha. What they do is they open your pores, which helps you sweat a little bit faster and easier. And as it does that, your metabolism kind of kicks in a little bit more. You sweat a little bit more, you eat a little bit more, you feel a little bit better.
Okay.
It's delicious.
We actually have an athlete it's an ongoing joke that he loves hot sauce, and when he eats, he just like literally floods, where we had to get him a headband, right? To kind of start absorbing it.
I know who that is. Yes.
Yes, and you do know who it is, and I don't want to put him. I don't want to put this person on blast, but literally he can sweat out while he's eating his food. He can sweat out about a pound and a half just by that. I'm just like, my
great
goodness.
problem.
And and it is the hot sauce. And a lot of the athletes that we have that enjoy hot sauce, they're like sucking on the lemons and the limes, and in the meantime they're dripping, and then they go and work out and their body is still dripping. So if you like hot sauce, use it.
Actually, I keep records of everybody that we've ever worked with, what we've done, how quickly they lose the weight, and I'm a statistics geek. So I stuck them all into spreadsheets, and I compared what is it that makes this person lose a higher percentage of weight in a shorter period of time with less stress on their body versus another. And it turned out that the athletes who were the hyper performers of, their ability to sweat, not only were they eating everything we told them to and drinking everything we told them to, but they were eating the highest amount of hot sauces. So their pores were opening a little bit faster.
Wow.
So once I
Okay.
started, recording this knowledge, then it became, we're working with very competitive people here. So then it became a competition. Well, if he can sweat out this much from eating, then I can sweat out more. But I will caveat that and say, as long as you enjoy it,
right,
and
you can tolerate
it, yeah,
that's right.
You don't need any ghost pepper parties here.
No, no,
Yeah.
that's great. That's some great advice and some tips. Before the show, we had a few people that wanted to ask some questions, and one of them was, "Is eating once a day healthy?"
I think I might have replied to that.
Oh, did you?
I think I read it, and in my mind I was like, no. Like, just like, that's just gonna, and then I started going through all of the things that it could do, but for the most part, no. It's really not. So especially people that say, you know what, I want to eat once a day, I want to fast for 22 hours. I'm like, oh, that's so hard for a combat athlete, because in that period you cannot possibly get all of the nutrients that you need. Number one. Number two, the rest of the time your body's going to think that you're not being kind to it and you're asking it to perform. It's not like you're saying, I'm going to eat at this time and I'm going to work out for 2 minutes, and the rest of the time I'm going to rest and recover and do a little yoga and stretch, and I'm actually doing a supervised fast. That's not what a lot of people are asking when they say, can I just eat once a day? Your body needs nutrients to do literally everything. To breathe, it needs to have nutrients. It needs to have electrolytes. For your mind to work, it needs to have electrolytes. For you to have reaction time, if you're a combat athlete, you need to have electrolytes. If you start saying, I'm going to restrict the nutrients that you're getting, the fuel that you're getting to be able to perform, the electrolytes for your reaction time, it is not conducive to a combat athlete. Specifically to, I don't pretend to know about a gymnast, say.
Right.
That's not my forte. Michelle can speak on that, but for a combat athlete, if you start restricting the nutrients and the fuel and the fluids that it needs to perform and react and not get injured, there will be problems down the line. Maybe not day 1, maybe not day 2 or day 3, but by day 10, by day 4, 5, 6, you will start noticing that you're having energy problems, reaction time problems, you're not recovering as well. If you give your body the nutrients that it needs, it will give you what you want.
Fabulous.
Absolutely.
One more question. So a lot of these high performance athletes, they're going to nationals. It's a 5-day event. Internationals, about 5-day event. And as much as we stress, drink water, stay hydrated, their fear is that, I have to weigh every single morning. So I need to limit my water. And as much as we push for them to drink the water, they still want, like, okay, well, what's a good time? Like, so if you had to give an athlete a time to just cut the water off for the day, is there a time, or would you not give them a time? And how do we reassure them that they are going to be at weight the next day?
That's actually a great question. So when we're looking at somebody who's competing day after day after day, my question goes back to, what is your ultimate goal? Your ultimate goal is to make it to the last session, to be the last fighter standing, to be the last athlete with the win. And in order to do that, you have to do something better than what everybody else has done, because everybody go in there has got talent and coaching and amazing training. You have to go in there better and smarter. And hydration is that difference. It's that key. The thing you have to remember is that an average person, when you wake up first thing in the morning, you are the most dehydrated you'll be all day. So whatever you weigh, that's kind of your base weight. You get up, you go to the bathroom, weigh yourself. Throughout the day, you're eating and drinking, you'll gain an average of, 3 to 5 pounds, and then you'll float it out through sweat, through sleeping, through air, through all of that loss. So I'm going to go back to what does your body do during a normal training camp, during a normal day? You know, see what you weigh, see how much you eat and drink, and see what you weigh the next day. Stay on that path. You should still be drinking about 1 ounce of water for every pound of body weight that you have. So that's obviously significantly more than 1 liter a day. And if you've gotten to the end of the day, if you've gotten up and you've weighed in and you've competed, go and do a quick jump rope or do an Epsom salt bath and soak, or wrap yourself in some blankets and watch a movie and break a little sweat for a few minutes. You'll get that excess off without affecting your physical abilities or your mental abilities. But definitely don't limit, because if you start limiting, remember, on day 1, then by day 5, you're really dehydrated and you've been training really hard and competing really hard.
Great tips for these guys. I tell you. Before we get out of here, Paulina, are there any last words or things that you really want to stick in people's minds?
Stay hydrated, people. Drink your water.
Michelle, how about you?
Oh,
Same thing.
Not distilled water. Not distilled water.
Be specific.
Drink your water. Be safe.
Sometimes you have to. Yeah.
Definitely. You know what? For anyone that's watching the show for the first time, you have to go back and watch the first segment. This knowledge and these tips are priceless if you are in combat sports. I tell you, we are so blessed to get these nuggets from these ladies who are so busy and have a lot of things to do, but they've taken time out, you know, to give you some nuggets. So use them. Like and share, you know, please. And I just thank y'all so much. Thank you, Clarence. He said, hello, ladies. Cashel said hello. Guadalupe. They said great information. And we got to keep it coming.
And so we'll talk to you next week, yeah?
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Y'all have a great night.
And Mike Basil, whom you know, said that he would love to join us next week. So getting another person in here that is considered an expert in their field is amazing. It's an amazing opportunity. So people, get your questions ready for Basil so that we can ask him all the info that he has.
Oh my gosh. Yes, definitely. We'll give y'all a heads up what day and what time and everything. Clarence said, beautiful job. And Sheena Stevens said, definitely love this. So that's good. We're making headway. We need more athletes to chime in and coaches, but we will see y'all next time. And thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Soon. Thank you.